Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Wood. On behalf of Carahsoft Technology, I would like to welcome you to our webinar, Smarter Public Sector CRM Data, Improving Data Collection Workflows with Compliant Tools. Before I get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. The audio portion of this webinar can be heard through your computer speakers, and all lines have been muted to reduce any background noise. If you'd like to ask a question throughout the presentation, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We'll do our best to answer them at the end of the presentation. As a reminder, this webinar is offering CPE credits to attendees who are participating throughout and have answered all the polling questions. This webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a link via email following the webinar. To tell you a little bit about Carahsoft, we are a trusted government IT solutions provider, delivering software and support solutions to federal, state, local, and education customers. Carahsoft maintains dedicated teams to support sales and marketing for all of its vendors. Our contact information will be at the end of the presentation. Please do not hesitate to call or email us for any of your needs. With that, I'd like to introduce Josh from FormAssembly, and he can take it from here.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you to our audience. I'll talk a little bit about FormAssembly later in the presentation, but I wanted to thank Carahsoft for hosting our conversation today. Our goal is to have a discussion around the challenges that government organizations, government departments see around data collection. FormAssembly is a data collection platform. We're very interested in how organizations collect and manage their data and pass it into critical systems. And so that's what today's conversation is going to center around. We'll have a quick discussion around government data collection, the challenges in the space. We're also going to talk a bit about AI adoption and risk management, something that I think is at the top of mind for a lot of organizations in 2025, especially as we look at 2026. And then we're going to talk a little bit with our panel today about implementation stories that they've seen around data collection in the government space. A couple of experts joining us today who I'll introduce in just a moment. And then if you are interested in FormAssembly, we will be doing a quick product tour before we leave today, giving you a sense of what a data collection platform can bring to your organization. I hope you stick around for that. We'll do a live Q&A where you can ask questions for our panelists. And anything, if you have a question about FormAssembly, I'm happy to answer that as well. We'll get those answers to you. We'll also have some poll questions to start off our discussion today. So I hope you have your mouse clicking fingers ready. We'll get to those in just a second. But first, let's take a moment and meet our panel. Sarah and Pratik, thank you both for joining us today. I'd love to give you each a chance to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about yourself to our audience. Sarah, why don't you take it away?
Sure. Thank you so much, Josh. Thanks, Michael, for kicking it off, and thanks, Carahsoft and FormAssembly for hosting. My name is Sarah Miller. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Shuja Consulting. We are a Salesforce consulting and managed services partner. We work primarily with nonprofits and social enterprises. And fun fact is that I have been using FormAssembly probably since 2007. I used to work for a higher ed graduate school, and we used FormAssembly very, very early on for our application that pushed it to Salesforce. And so here I am still using the product. Love it. So happy to share my stories around it. Thanks.
Nice. Pratik?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you so much, Michael and Sarah, for being here as well. Great story, Sarah. Really, really interested. And so the reason why I'm on this call today is I work with FormAssembly. I'm the senior partner account manager. My role includes working with partners like Sarah and other partners in the ecosystem, including Carahsoft, and super excited to be here on the panel today.
Fantastic. Panelists, thank you both for joining us. Looking forward to the discussion today. But first, audience, to inform our discussion, I have some poll questions that I'd love to get your answers on. We'd love to get a sense of where you are at in data collection journeys with the organizations that you support. I'm going to show the questions on some slides, but you should see them pop up in your Zoom webinar interface. Our first question, what challenges are you facing when it comes to your data collection processes? We'll give you a moment to vote there, and then I have a couple more to put in front of you as well. I know all of these are challenges, but of course some are probably more of a priority than others. All right. Thank you, Michael. I think we can close this poll. I'm wondering if we'll be able to see the results. I'd love to see what our audience is challenged with.
Yeah. I'll give everybody just a couple more seconds to try and get their answers in, and then I'll close it out. All right. Um, awesome. All right. Can you see the results there?
Fantastic. I can. This isn't too much of a surprise for me, actually. Manual data processes are inherently time consuming. And I think, whether you work in a public sector organization or something, in the private sector, efficiency is the name of the game. No one wants to be touching data over and over. The second poll answer, and it looks like these are actually tied, outdated systems, not a surprise in the government space. And as Sarah mentioned earlier, I know higher education is especially struggling with some outdated legacy systems. The student information system is something that was great, a decade or two ago when they were so bespoke and were made, to support the organization at that time. But software can get stale. And I love to see this in third, the ability to easily create forms. I'm glad to see that here. That's something that, well, you're going to see some tools later today that can definitely help that. Thank you, audience. Two more quick questions for you. Michael, if you don't mind, I'd love to prompt the second question. When it comes to web forms, what area do you focus on the most? And I know some of you who, maybe are not participating in data collection at your organization on a day-to-day basis may look at web forms and kind of question what that is. Web forms have a broad definition. They are the contact us form on your website. The three field form that's just getting in contact with someone at your organization and maybe sends an email to an inbox somewhere. But they're also those online applications. They're the grant applications, the applications for services. Any digital form that intakes data from a respondent or a form filler is a web form, and these challenges or these areas of focus are where we see a lot of organizations focused on their web forms. So we'll give you a moment to fill in here. Michael, I'll take your cue on when to close these. Oh, fantastic. Thank you. We'll take a look at results. All right. And not a surprise either. I know that a lot of government organizations, especially, have made the move into Salesforce Gov Cloud, or, if they're not necessarily at a federal level, Salesforce in some aspect to support their kind of data management processes, that single source of truth. And ironically, even in 2025, the intake of data into Salesforce is still an area of friction for a lot of organizations. It can be difficult. We're definitely going to talk about that today. And then I do see as our second kind of runner-up answer there, data collection and management as a whole. Beyond your CRM, I understand that, taking data into your ecosystem, especially in unstructured ways, especially where different departments and just different employees are looking to collect different data, that can be a challenge for a centralized IT arm. So another challenge that we see very often in the space. Thank you. Let's go ahead and get to our third poll, and then we'll use this information to inform our discussion today. Let's touch on the topic of AI. Are you, audience, currently using AI to automate your data collection workflows? I think I know what the answer is here, but I'll be honest with you. FormAssembly is relatively new to the federal space. Only recently did we roll out a FedRAMP-Authorized offering. We had a FedRAMP-Ready offering for quite some time. I'm very interested to know how your organizations are dealing with the concept of AI in 2025. And this is, I promise, the last poll question for some time, so you can rest your mouse fingers easy. And we'll have one more poll for you near the end. Thank you, Michael. Here we are. So this is, I think this is where a lot of organizations, public sector, private sector, are. Organization-wide AI adoption, especially when it comes to data collection, is something that we are moving forward to slowly. But AI's applications in other areas of an organization, like ideation, like cleaning up copy documents. I'm on FormAssembly's marketing team, so writing better emails, something that we started leveraging AI for very quickly. But when it comes to data collection, there haven't been a ton of AI tools to help with that. Obviously, if you're familiar with Salesforce, Agentforce is there to help with customer interactions or in the government space, citizen interactions, but it hasn't been fully adopted yet. We hear stories about how slowly that's going. So I'm not surprised here. Fantastic. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, audience. This gives our discussion panel here just an idea of what you're facing, and this will help inform today's discussion. With that, I'd love to turn things over back over to Michael and Sarah and Pratik, and we'll discuss our panel questions today. Okay, take it away. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Yeah, I just have some quick panel questions for Pratik and Sarah. So, what does data collection look like for government organizations? This one, Pratik or Sarah can answer that.
Great. Thanks, Michael. Do you want to start, Pratik?
Yeah, I can quickly start. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I think in public sector, as far as our customers and prospects are concerned, data is at the core of effective service delivery, right? Informed policy making and accountability is what they really care about. But high quality data is not something that actually happens by accident. It requires a lot of
Mhm.
intentional design, a lot of good, thoughtful workflows, and tools that support both compliance and efficiency. So I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of our customers and prospects look for. Today, what we are going to try and discuss is how can you improve on the data quality as well as drive public sector data success, whether it is collecting information from citizens or grant applications or city members that are participating in the data submissions.
Yeah, I agree with you, Pratik. I think some like examples I've seen are around needing to have in the data collection tool, like data retention policies built in, so that its data is kept for as long as it needs to be kept based on the government or the policy requirements. Some other things I've seen are around like being really clear around when an application is open and when it closed for fairness and equity. And those are kind of like key things in the public sector that we've seen in either nonprofits or nonprofits that are funded for application grants from the government. There's like this tension between there needs to be flexibility, but there also needs to be like clean data, validation rules, making sure that the data that is coming into that field that is being pushed into your CRM or wherever it's ending up is what you're expecting and not something else. So those are some of the things that we've been seeing with our clients.
Yeah, thanks. Um, that was perfect. Going along with that, what data related challenges are unique specifically in the federal space? Sarah, I think you can start with this one and
Sure.
ask.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's very similar to the nonprofit space. There's duplicate data sources often because of lack of integration. Technology seems to be a couple steps behind because of either challenges of onboarding newer technologies or those integrations or the expense of it and budget. Um, there's oftentimes the users in these organizations or in the public space aren't super technical savvy, so you need a tool that is user friendly, that is clear and concise, can help you through that workflow and that data collection. And then, the last thing I would say is a little bit stricter requirements around who sees what data. And that's a little bit, maybe I'm more on the CRM side of things, like being able to show the result of data to the right person at the right time is as a kind of an important factor for public space, yeah, public sector.
Yeah, 100%. And I completely agree with you, sir. I think, duplication, as you said, right? One of the biggest challenges. We've all seen customers who've started using a CRM, whether it's Salesforce or anything else. After 5 years of using the system, you end up having 60,000 records, which are all duplicates of records that are
Right.
already existing. So those are definitely some of the biggest challenges. And then lack of integration as well, right? So many systems don't really talk to each other. We've seen that with our for-profit organization customers. We've seen that with nonprofit. We've seen that with public sector as well. So definitely, both the points you hit it right on the head. I think one of the other challenges that a lot of my prospects and customers that I work with face, especially agencies, is finding the right kind of partner that can help with that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
being able to work with someone like Carahsoft or being able to work with someone like Shuja Consulting that really have the processes organized and have had the experience of being able to work with organizations and agencies that have similar challenges in the public sector, that's gold. And not a lot of agencies have access to these systems and these kind of partners. As Josh mentioned before, FormAssembly has been in the technical ecosystem for almost 20 years now. We've achieved the FedRAMP ready status since many, many, many years, but we are now FedRAMP authorized as well with a high impact level. We are also trying to get the IELTS 4 certification, trying to work with DoD and VA and a lot of other agencies. So idea is to provide agencies access to such kind of partners and also being there for the agencies when they actually require them.
Yeah,
It's great.
thank y'all so much for that. This question starting out with critique. This year, we've heard a lot about funding issues at the federal level, from cuts to shutdowns. How are the organizations you work with impacted by changes to federal funding, and how are they sort of dealing with it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Michael. I think in terms of the agencies that we've mostly come across and agencies that we are working with, budgets have tightened. Yes, resources have been allocated towards different priorities. However, a lot of agencies are actually trying to invest more in software as well as partners that help them improve the quality of data rather than taking money away from it. So a lot of agencies that we work with are actually taking investment in the right software as an investment rather than as an expense. I've been working with a lot of agencies right now who are actually looking to go ahead and make the procurement as early as this month rather than pushing it to next month, considering we are at the end of the year. And that's kind of the method that I've seen throughout the year. Whether it's agencies, whether it's for-profit organizations, or whether it's non-profit organizations, people are ready to spend money as long as it's the right solution and the right partner that they are getting a chance to work with.
Yeah, and I would just add that we definitely saw cuts in the nonprofit sector, but also the desire from organizations to get more value out of their data. Less spreadsheets, consolidating like multiple spreadsheets into one system. And that is either through how the data gets into the system, like tools like FormAssembly, and reducing just like duplicate work across the inefficiencies of folks going off platform into some spreadsheet somewhere that is buried, and just bringing that transparency of the data instead of like buried in somebody's email or a spreadsheet somewhere, having the right tools, like for example, between FormAssembly and Salesforce to bring that transparency and see the data clear. There's definitely an emphasis on like wanting to see the right data at the right time, to bring efficiencies to the organizations.
Yeah, 100%, Sarah. And I think you touched on a great point around consolidation of tool stack. That
Yeah.
is something that I've noticed as well. A lot of agencies and organizations are actually trying to save on cost by limiting the number of tool stacks that they use,
Mhm.
but then also going ahead and being able to utilize the same tool that they've been using for different things in different capacities to bring the efficiencies in the
Yeah.
picture. So that's a great observation. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, thank you both. Going along with funding, with some turbulence in funding, organizations are dealing with changes brought about by AI. How is AI adoption progressing at the federal level? Starting with you, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak around some of our nonprofits that are like federally funded, and that I would say that it's slow. I have seen some organizations using AI, as Josh mentioned earlier, in different ways of email writing or marketing and pieces like that. Where I've seen it in data is we're starting to see it a little bit in using AI to summarize information that's already in a CRM or in their systems. And then we've also been seeing it in a little bit of like it's very useful in like the summarizing the data, but also like data migration, manipulating data from one place to another. And then us as a partner, we have been also using AI in development to some degree and improving our processes and our tools and how we can serve our clients. And we hope that we can start to share that with our clients and be like, hey, look, you also have access to these tools and this so that you can, you know, do your own thing, figure it out and support them in that AI journey as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think even the poll that we did today, right? It basically exactly says the same thing, Sarah, right? People are trying to use AI in some or the other capacity. However, the acceptance of AI when it comes to organization-wide applications have been very limited and have been slow. I think a lot of organizations that we work with are moving slow in terms of acceptance, mostly because there are a lot of regulatory and compliance hurdles that come into the picture, right? What is
Mhm.
the kind of data that you are allowed to share with an AI bot, or what is the kind of data that you can actually even receive from an AI bot? What is the kind of trust that you have towards something like that? I think the other important thing here that you mentioned is around being able to use AI to train. We've seen that a lot within our customers as well. We ourselves have started using a lot of AI functionality in training our resources, training our new users who utilize Form Assembly today and want to be able to utilize Form Assembly in different ways.
Mhm.
And then procurement and budget constraints is also a great sort of issue, right? AI is there, but it's not cheap, right? You and I, as individual users, can access something like ChatGPT or Grok without actually paying. However, when you talk about an organization or agency-wide implementation, it's
Yeah.
going to take away a lot of resources. So again, as I said before, I think if agencies consider this as an investment, there is definitely a lot of upside here. But currently, we are just seeing agencies move a little bit slowly towards the adoption of AI.
Yeah, I agree. I've been talking to a couple like VPs, CIO level folks, and they're like, there's an initiative for adding more AI, but it's not really clear like what that implementation path is yet or how they're going to execute it. But there's definitely the intention and the idea of it, but the use cases are a little slow to come, but they're starting to come.
Yeah, I completely agree. We've talked a lot about the challenges public sector organizations are facing. Where are you seeing successes when it comes to public sector data collection? And then I'll pass it to Sarah first.
Great. Yeah, so I would love to share a use case with one of our clients around data collection with form assembly and a success of that. So the use case is that we have this client. They run a scholarship application process that is federally funded. So right off the bat, it has to be FedRAMP authorized data collection and storage. And last year they ran the application process on Salesforce. So Salesforce is the CRM, and they were using Omni Studio as their application. So this team is about 5 users. There's no developer on staff. They're kind of tech savvy, but not really. And we came in, Shuja Consulting came in about halfway through their application process last year that was in Omni Studio and OmniScript, which is a native product of Salesforce. However, the challenge they had some significant challenges with it, being that it's pretty complex to the user. You can't just like look at the form before it goes live. They had data collection issues with like missing data. The error logging was really challenging, even for us to like track down on the back end. Anytime they wanted to make a change, like add a pick list value, add a new field kind of midstream, it kind of broke the system. And so after the application year ended, after it closed, we said, okay, let's reassess. We got to look at what's out there and make a change. So there, 3 options came up. One was to stay with Omni Studio. The other option was to use flows and screen flows for Salesforce. And then I brought to the client FormAssembly because, as I said, we've been using it since 2007. I absolutely believe it's best of breed. I was very excited to hear that they were just recently FedRAMP compliant. So that was amazing. And so we went through it through each option very in detail. And Omni Studio was just a little bit off the table because it was just too complex for what they needed. Flows was an option, but again, it would be a lot of custom build that would take time and cost. And Form Assembly just out of the box was going to hit a lot of these requirements. So we ended up going with Form Assembly. The application had interesting like validation rules. So basically it started with multi-forms that were all linked together. And so we utilized workflow, which is the first time I had used workflow in this sort of like capacity. It was awesome. We had like an eligibility quiz that started. So that was one form. And if they passed, it went to like the main application. That application went through, they had save and continue. If there was something wrong with the connector, it was saved in Form Assembly. We had error logs of everything, which was amazing. They had to have an attestation document generated so that the applicants could get this document and had it signed by themselves and their parents because they were 18 or under. And so out of the workflow and form assembly, we were able to generate a document, send it to the applicant, have them sign it, have it re-uploaded again to form assembly with another form that was the upload, and then continue on and finish the process. All of the data could go to Salesforce at every form and every step of the way. We could also track that in Salesforce through the connectors. So there's visibility to the team. They knew where all the applicants were. We could close the application right when they needed because there's a functionality to do that and archive it at a certain time and date. So there was a requirement from the federal government around like this application needs to close at midnight on this date. So easy to do. And at the end, their conversion rate went up from last year. Like their conversion rate of applicants who started the application and actually finished I think it went up by like 50%. So I have to check that number, but it was a lot higher than it was last year. And the experience of our clients who were running the application process is much better than it was in the previous years. So yeah, it was a success, I would say. The application window is closed. One little like key factor too was that some of these applications were in a low bandwidth internet location. So they were in Middle East, North Africa area. And because we could do an after submit connector to Salesforce, so that means that the user can submit their data and click submit, and there's not something processing in the background. And they had a great experience. And then the after submit connector allowed that data to be pushed, just made it super fast. So it was a great experience, I think, for the applicants and for our client too, with collecting their data. Um, and I definitely sold on the workflows. That was great. And I will just say that the benefit of the workflows in FormAssembly was that sure we could have done this document generation in Salesforce, but it was just like more custom work on the Salesforce side with like less visibility from our users. So our users can go into FormAssembly and see the workflow each step of the way, which I think Pratik's going to show you in just a little bit. So teeing that up for you, Pratik. But it was a great experience. Yeah.
Yep, that's wonderful, Sarah. And I think again, going back to what we discussed a little bit earlier, right? Consolidation is so important in today's time. Consolidation as well as the flexibility of being able to look at a response or a look at a form before it actually goes live.
Hmm.
So form assembly is just, today it's just that modern compliant tool that helps agencies build quality into the processes from the start itself. The kind of flexibility, real-time validation, secure data capture we are
Yeah.
able to provide is just to a different level. And you mentioned being able to users being able to submit this form and the data being able to be entered into Salesforce at places which did not have high network, and
Hmm.
even being able to have users being able to submit these forms from either mobile or a tablet device or a computer
Yeah.
is a huge help. And so many systems can't even do that right now.
Yeah, I will say the age range of the kid we called them kids. The applicants were like 17 to 18, and most of the applications, like when we would get feedback, were mobile. So they're using their phones to finish out the application. And it's a lot of data, and being able to save and continue was a huge benefit for them too, because they would have to go back and get like transcripts or financial documents. And that feature was also super key for them.
That's wonderful. And
Yeah.
even glad to hear that the conversion rate has gone up by
Yeah.
54%, right? That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's massive. Michael, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think we're gonna get started with the demo now, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and just have you run through a little bit of a form assembly tour. Um, yeah, passing it quickly back to you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much, Michael. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was my time to demo now. Great. So this is the homepage of Form Assembly. As you can see, these are all of the forms that I have in my demo instance. Again, today's demo is mostly to do a quick product walkthrough rather than going in depth into use cases. What I want to really show is on the right-hand side, we have Form Assembly's AI assistant, which is Faye. As I said before, this is one of the ways that we've started using Form AI within Form Assembly. I have a quick prompt which I've prepared already, and I'm going to just paste this prompt over here, and we are going to see how Form Assembly's AI assistant interacts with this prompt, right? So I'm just asking it to create a W-9 form to provide to collect taxpayer information, and then Faye is basically going to start building that form. You can see the title has already been generated. And now we are going to see all of the questions that pop up. Again, this is not something that will give you an exact form that can go live. This is just to give you a head start into your form building process, making sure that you are ticking all the boxes around questions, making sure you are applying the right kind of validation for each and every field is something that you will have the capacity to do once the form has been completed by Faye. So as you can see, the form is being created right now. You can now go ahead and customize everything. Form Assembly has a great theme builder. So you can go ahead and customize the look and feel of the form. You can change the logo. You can see the Form Assembly logo here, which can be removed. And then you also have an option around being able to add field properties to each and every field. So just a quick head start, you can see within 2 minutes, I was able to create a brand new form, which is collecting W-9 information. And then if I wanted to save that form, I can easily go ahead and save it as well as publish it in different ways. Coming back to the form builder, we have tons of functionality around being able to categorize or folderize your form. So we call it tags and description tags. You can easily go ahead and tag any form as you want. And then depending on what folder you select, you will be able to get to that specific form. Just an easy way for you or for the administrators to basically be able to find the right form, because 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, when you have hundreds of forms within form assembly, you want to be able to find that exact form when you want to look for it. This is our admin dashboard. The admin dashboard gives you all of the functionality around being able to manage your users within form assembly, as well as the forms that are created there. One great thing about form assembly is we work on an unlimited model. So at any point in time, most of our plans use the unlimited model. So at any point in time, you can receive unlimited number of applications, create unlimited number of forms as well. You can see here the form I just created is already available here. So that is the last form that was created. And then you can toggle through the forms depending on what form you're looking at. From a user management perspective, you have an option to completely customize the permissions and roles your users have. So if an agency is utilizing, or if an agency or a university is using form assembly and they want to provide different permission packages to different users within form assembly, you can easily do that by going to the all users tab and then clicking on the edit permissions or edit user functionality. At the bottom, we have security and settings, where you can specify what kind of security you want for each and every field, as well as for your form. So things like multi-factor authentication are available. You also have an option to mask specific fields and anonymize the IP addresses on your forms that you are hosting. Something that Sarah touched on previously is being able to have different kind of fields and security practices on different fields within your forms. That is definitely something that you can set up within the form assembly tool. And then the last thing I want to touch on is the functionality of being able to utilize workflow. We spoke about being able to consolidate different systems and different functionality within one tool. So you can see here within my workflow tab, once I've created a workflow, I can add a form here. I can then send a notification email once the form has been submitted, trigger a Salesforce connector at any point, trigger a SharePoint connector at any point, but also add a document generation step. I just need to upload a document here with a template, and then I will be able to merge my fields from the document template to my form assembly fields. And then if I wanted to collect e-signature, that is also something that I can do. So with just one simple tool, you are sending out emails, you are collecting form responses, you are sending that data to two different systems. What we saw right now was SharePoint and Salesforce. And then you are creating a document as well as collecting e-signature. One great thing about our e-signature functionality is it is UETA compliant, so Uniform Electronics Transactions Act compliant, and it makes your e-signature legally valid in the court of law. So that's it from the demo today. We welcome any questions, any technical questions around the demo as well. So feel free to utilize the time for the Q&A at the end and post your questions. Back to the host.
Yeah, thanks so much, Prateek. If anybody has any questions they'd like to ask, you can just throw them down in the Q&A pod and we will answer them live. We'll give you all a few minutes to write down your questions. All right, it looks like we've received one. Where's the best place to request the security package for form assembly? FedHive listing or security.formassembly.com?
I can answer that. Thanks. If you know the best place for the documentation, if you are in a part of a procurement process with your org and your team needs to see, you know, FedRAMP authorized high impact level and get those details, the FedRAMP marketplace is the best place to go about that. If you need other documentation from the form assembly team, and I know organization by organization and even use case by use case, the procurement process is going to be different. I think Sarah mentioned, she's working with a nonprofit that has federal funding for one of the specific programs, but you might be a university, and you need to make sure that this tool is also FERPA compliant, but maybe you have federal funding as well. Our security site at FormAssembly, at security.formassembly.com, is where you can request all security related documentation about the platform. So if you need SOC 2 documentation, if you need audit trail documentation, that would be the best place to go about that. It's usually best to have started the conversation with FormAssembly already so that you have an account manager or a partner, Pratik or Sarah, like these type of people to start that conversation and make sure that you kind of get your request in all at once and get all the documentation back. But I think that kind of covers the question. If you need your FedRAMP authorization documentation, definitely go to the FedRAMP marketplace. We work with a provider called FedHive. I think they're a familiar name for a lot of you. And we're offered inside of their environment. So they're going to be able, their listing is where you're actually going to find that documentation. Thank you for the question, Michael.
Yeah. It looks like we have one more. Can we require form fillers to sign in before filling forms?
Yes, I'm off mute. I'll answer that as well. You absolutely can. We refer to that as authentication, but the way that you accomplish that inside of Form Assembly is you would set up an SSO, using whatever tool you are using at your organization, whether that's a CDAP or pardon me, an LDAP. Your single signing authorization, your system can be used with Form Assembly. So you would have a sign-in process, essentially a login form before the form, verify that user's authentic identity, and then you're able to pass them into the form. We have a lot of organizations use that. That is not available at the workflow level currently, but that is coming to our workflow soon. But you can authenticate with forms, and that is something that a lot of organizations use before they surface Salesforce or CRM data inside of a form. I think we touched on this as a part of the discussion earlier. A lot of organizations use form assembly forms as a way to pre-fill forms with Salesforce data. There are times when that data may be sensitive and you need to know for certain who the respondent, who the form user is before you show that form to them. That's when authentication would come in, which I believe is what the question is referring to. Sarah, I noticed you came off mute.
Yeah, I also I recall we looked into this. You can authenticate with like Salesforce experience site.
Yeah,
So yeah, so you could have a login there that will push you to the right to your data in your form in a pre-fill form. Yeah.
yes, also a very common use case. I
Yeah.
know in the federal space as well, there is CAC. I hesitate to call that CAC, but also PIV authentication as well, which I know that some organizations have set up with form assembly forms. So we can support multiple ways of authenticating that form filler before getting them into that form experience.
I saw that I think there was like a comment around duplicates earlier. That was a big issue as well with our client. And I just feel like Form Assembly's got it nailed around removing like ensuring there are no duplicates coming, whichever way you want to do it, either through an email plus first name, how you're going to track that. That's a huge topic that we talk about often with data coming into Salesforce is like how to make sure that you're getting the right data in and you're removing duplicates. And I feel like it's a safe bet with Form Assembly that you can set that up pretty easily.
Yes, I think the note was we didn't include that in our polls.
Oh, right. Yeah. Has a data issue. Yeah.
Yes, an audience member, you're absolutely right. It's not a specific issue to the government space, and in fact, it's the foundational issue in so many systems of record is multiple records that are referencing the same person. As Sarah mentioned, it's a common challenge that people use form assembly to solve, and it is one of the things that, ironically, with the AI conversation, is becoming more of an issue because AI and agents, if you're building kind of like AI applications, they're only as good as the information you give them. And so if you're giving them confusing information, especially at the CRM level, multiple email addresses, et cetera, you're going to get worse results out of them. And so we kind of refer to this as the point of data collection. Getting things right at the very entrance to your critical systems is where we see kind of the market going. And it's one of the things that we're happy to provide as a platform. It's just helping organizations control that input. Um, all right, fantastic. I had Michael, thank you. I know we kind of ran out of questions. Audience, thank you. If you do have more questions, we'd be happy to get to them. I did promise you at the beginning just a little bit more information about Form Assembly. Pratik, thank you for the product tour. As we mentioned, Form Assembly is available in a FedRAMP authorized high environment now through our partners at FedHive, allowing organizations, in the federal space to collect controlled, unclassified information. But we've been playing in the sensitive data space and supporting compliance standards for a long time. So beyond, the federal data, though I know many of you may, come under the auspices of federal requirements, federal compliance requirements. We also help with the collection of, just PHI or student data. We help organizations support FERPA and HIPAA and many other data compliance standards. Know that, this is a platform that you can build safe, compliant data collection workflows on, including, encryption levels, and as I mentioned, SOC 2 compliance as well, and user authentication. And what we find that organizations use Form Assembly for is making data collection processes that work internally for the organization, limiting things like duplication, limiting things like manual work, but also getting that information back to the audiences that you serve, whether that be citizens, whether that be students in North Africa, whoever you are serving and work, collecting data from, you're also probably needing to surface data to them. Form assembly forms have that bi-directional data flow that allow organizations to construct user-friendly data collection workflows, things that make students feel like their school knows who they are when they go to a school web page, things that put you in closer contact with your audiences. And we do that with tools that make it easier for you and your users to build without necessarily needing heavy reliance on your Salesforce admins who are likely doing work that's more important or unfortunately hunting down duplicates, right? It allows you to put the tools into the hands of users that need to build those forms without worrying that they're going to be in over their heads. As Pratik showed, we've made it even easier with an injection of AI into our system where you can build forms with a prompt rather than even using the drag and drop tools that you traditionally use. A note to those of you that mentioned you're not using AI for data collection. If you're not using AI for data collection because you have organizational restrictions against AI usage, in Form Assembly, you can turn off those AI tools. Admins have that capability available to them. So just in case like that's a red flag for your organization, know that we can help you there as well. And the last thing, and kind of the theme, I think, of this webinar where this discussion has gone is, we're helping organizations with quality integration create better data ecosystems. Again, if you control the data that's coming into your organization at the point of data collection, that means from as soon as that data comes into your system, you can feel confident in its quality, feel confident that it's a record that is complete, that is not a duplicate, and that is ready to be passed to other systems and other workflows, whether that be, a college application process ready to go to a committee or, like that application, forgive me, for advisors, ready to be passed to that team, or if you're in more of a grant, kind of capacity, ready to be passed to the grant committee at your organization, knowing that all of the information is there. That's the kind of work, the use cases that we're able to support. And now I feel like you might feel a little more educated there on what we can provide. So a last poll question for the audience today, now that you're a little more familiar with Form Assembly, if you came to us to this webinar with a problem that you're trying to solve when it comes to data collection, would you care for a consultation? I'll ask Michael to throw that last poll up. Thank you. If you're interested in talking to our team, we've got a team of people like Pratik who are used to working with organizations that are doing sophisticated, complex data collection and government entities. If you'd like to talk to our team and just hear where we may be able to improve your data collection processes, we'd love to talk to you. I'll give you a chance just to respond to this poll. And then I'll pass things over to Sarah actually to talk a little bit about Shuja today as well. Forgive me, I ran past the slide. I'll give Sarah the floor for a moment.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thanks for having me. Like I said, I am a huge fan of FormAssembly. I'm happy to share my experience, especially over the years. I really do believe it's a best of breed form. And being a Salesforce consultant and being in that ecosystem for so long, that ability to integrate is solid. Like I can always rely on it. So yeah, we're a Salesforce consulting and managed services partner. If you're interested in learning more about us, it's shujaconsulting.com. We do design, configure, develop, integrate, train, and support. We work with international NGOs as well as nonprofits and social enterprises in the United States. I do have a higher education experience and background, so happy to talk about that as well. And yeah, thank you so much, Michael, Patrick, and Josh, and everybody for being here and hosting.
Thank you, Sarah. And thanks again to the audience. Thanks to Carahsoft. Before I let you go today, we will be sending out some resources, giving you the opportunity to engage with Form Assembly more. We've got an info sheet on our government offerings. We also have a free trial if you are the type of person at your organization who would be building a proof of concept. You can feel confident in accessing Form Assembly's free trial, being able to build a proof of concept and seeing exactly how the tools that you saw today work for your organization. We did get one Q&A question after the Q&A closed, and it was about whether FormAssembly supports Microsoft Dynamics. Dave, I was typing out this answer, but I'll give it to you live. We don't have a dedicated Microsoft Dynamics connector, but we do have a webhook connector that can pass information to any open API. We do support SharePoint and Microsoft Excel with dedicated connectors, and I hope to have some better information for you later in 2026 around the Microsoft Dynamics ecosystem, but we definitely can get information to the platforms that you're using. But thank you for that question. I think I'll hand things over to Michael. Michael, thank you so much for hosting us today. We really appreciate the opportunity to get in front of your audience.
Yeah, thank y'all so much, each and every one of you, for presenting. Um, yeah, looks like that wraps up our event today. Just a couple things from me. Thank you to Form Assembly and Shuja Consulting for your insight today. Really appreciate that. And I'd like to thank all of our participants for joining us. We hope this information was helpful to you and your organization. Our contact information is displayed on the screen. Please do not hesitate to reach out.